So here as we're breathing into the earth, we can feel and we can envision roots traveling downward. It's almost like little tiny cilia, just expanding down into the ground and exploring how the earth tastes. And we imagine that the earth has energy. It's like in little particles. And so when our little tiny roots start to find little pockets of energy, and we take it up into our body, we start to feel so calm, nurtured, and just relaxed. Any tension that we had before this, it's almost like it's irrelevant because we feel so energetically full. So give yourselves a couple of breaths to kind of envision that energy starting to travel up. So with our body very full of this really comforting, relaxing energy, we start to connect with our intention today, which is this idea of grounding down. Sometimes we live in anxious or stressful states in our lives. So that's kind of almost more common than not in this modern society. But when we live in that stress, that anxiety, I like to think of it like our energy has been brought away from the earth. And it's okay to live there. In fact, sometimes people that like to procrastinate, they have to have that moment of anxiety before they'll write the paper or do the assignment or whatever. So sometimes that can be useful to have that energy lifted up away where we put into that panic state and we get things done. But if we live constantly our life in that way, it drains our energy because we're not connected to the earth. And so it makes us be brought to a spot where we are brought to dis-ease, to disbalance. And so today in our practice, we're grounding back into the earth. And we do this by really feeling any surface area of our body that's touching down. And reconnecting over and over and over again in any pose that we're in. Even if there's a pose that doesn't have nearly as much of your body touching down, whatever is touching, we try to ground really firmly and solidly into that. So that'll be the idea that leads us on. We'll start off by bringing the knees into the chest, a little hand on each knee, and maybe you just simply hold this in for a hug. Maybe you're rocking your hips around. If you're rocking, be consciously aware of those moments when one hip pushes into the ground, the other one can lift off for a second, and then the other one returns to the ground. Over and over again, that's what this journey is, returning to the ground, returning to the earth, to that nurturing source. So from here, we'll begin to release the left leg. It goes all the way back to the floor. Notice when that leg is relaxed, you can feel the heel, the calf, the thigh, and the glute on that left side. You can feel it touching the earth. So with that remaining in contact, we clasp our hands around this right knee and begin to pull this right knee in tighter. You might reach a spot where you're pulling it in so tightly that some of that surface area on the left leg starts to lift away from the ground. So just be aware if that happens. Perhaps you send a little bit of extra energy down that left leg so that the calf can touch back to the earth or any other spot that lifted. Just be aware of that contrast that's happening within our body. So now begin to open this right knee to the right. I like to flip my hand to rest on the inner part of the knee. So if that's useful for you, go ahead and take that flip and just feel the inner thigh starting to get some awareness, some attention. Also pay attention to left hip. We do want it to stay on the earth. So if you're pushing so much that it lifts, see if that left hip can return back to its root. So now take the right knee upward, and at your own rate, begin to pass it over toward the left to a nice twist. For me, it's possible for the right toes to touch the ground. I don't usually like to twist so much that my knee touches the ground. So instead, perhaps it's helpful to allow this right shoulder to really solidly plant itself. Maybe even extending those right fingers out to the right. And in that way, we've got some contrasting things going on. We've got the solidness of this right shoulder, and then even down to the right toes, making that contact with the earth. Feel how the breath impacts every moment of this twist. It's almost like a plant that gets to feel the breeze. And because it feels the breeze, it knows that it has to grow stronger so it won't topple over. We think of the tree or the other plants that we envision, and usually we think of everything that we can see, the stems, the leaves, the fruit. But we have to realize that it equally has to travel a root system downward. And by rooting so strongly down, that's where the real power comes in. That's where it can grow taller. So in this twist, take one more inhale. And then exhale, that right hip begins to return to the ground. When it's there, take a moment to let this right leg stretch up to the sky. This is not too stressful. This is just kind of an easy stretch for your body. So maybe you're wiggling your toes, or maybe you want to get a little bit further into your hamstring and you're hugging your arms in just a bit. Nothing stressful. This is just a good stretch. From here, we'll begin to slide the left knee in. And so that this will make it possible that we can take the right ankle to left thigh and give that left side a good hug. So notice the areas that are touching the ground right now. And can we relax the muscles into that? Sometimes there's almost like this underlying tension that's in our bodies that we don't realize that we carry until we consciously start telling ourselves, oh, I can relax deeper. I can go another level. Take another beautiful inhale. With the exhale, uncross the foot. The feet can plant about as wide as the mat. And then let the knees do a few nice windshield wipers, just easing their way to the right. Eventually to the left. And feel how it's almost like a healing thing for the thighs to fall all the way to the earth. And then switch sides. Good, so when that feels pretty complete, now your right leg gets to reach out long, resting on the earth. Pay attention to the surface area that's down, the heel, the calf, thigh, glute. So then we'll start to hug hands around left knee. As we begin to pull it in tightly, really pay attention to that right side and be conscious of if you need to have a little bit more energy and activation going down that right leg to try to remain in contact with the earth. So now the knee starts to open out to the left. Left hand can rest on it for a moment. Pay attention to the hip. And this knee gets to start passing over the body into a twist. Remember, it's left shoulder that's so solidly rooted. And maybe those left toes get to touch the ground too. Feel your breath, that gentle massage, easing us slightly away from the ground and then helping us melt even deeper. Be with it for another 3 breaths, trying to make those breaths extended, very long. And as that left hip starts to return to the earth, we allow left leg a brief chance to stretch up to the sky. Remember, you can do the toe circles, Or maybe you're straightening the leg a little bit further. Find that good focus that will work for you. Sliding this right thigh in, we can place the left ankle on top of it. Give it a hug. We realize that as we stretch through some of these hip and strong leg muscles like the hamstrings, this only helps our low back and other areas of the body, because sometimes those big, strong muscles tend to be bullies to the smaller muscles. So in helping to stretch the big ones out, we're helping everything to come to a greater balance. And really, that's what it's all about. A person that's 100% grounded, but they haven't grown at all. So in other words, they haven't gone through self-improvement. That's not really a person you want to be with. And similarly, a person that's 100% anxious, they're ungrounded, but they're getting stuff done, that's not always the person you want to be with either. They stress you out. So it's that perfect balance. That's what we're searching for. So a relaxing inhale. And with our exhale, we can start to release our hands. The feet will find contact with the earth again. Enjoy that contact. Feel already rooted so much more by that placement. And then let's do a few of those windshield wipers. If it's comfortable to go so far that the outer thigh is touching the floor on one side, and then switching, it's so nice. It's almost like any charge that was in that area gets to be expelled right out to the earth. When that starts to feel pretty good, we make our way up toward a seated place. Perhaps roll through the side and press your way up. Whenever you're comfortable up here, we'll head to cobbler's pose. You get to choose if the feet are close or far. And let your spine, especially that low back, just kind of ease its way forward. Don't feel in any rush to get to a destination. Just continue to relax using gravity as your friend. So often when I'm in this pose, what I'm focusing on is what I feel, the intensity in the hips or sometimes the low back. Today, see if you can See if you can find the groundedness in this pose, whatever that means to you. So maybe that means we're trying to allow the thighs to open even 1 millimeter further than they naturally go to. Or maybe that groundedness is this quality of relaxing your back muscles so that you're not holding the extra tension. So whatever that means to you, find groundedness in this shape. Let's begin to ease our way up. Once we're sitting, no rush, we'll pick up the left knee and flip it over to the right knee. Once you've done that, continue to walk the hands in a spiral behind you. You can stay up on your palms, or you could lower down to elbows. Letting our spine just ease in that nice twist. Deep breath in, a relaxing exhale. And then take your time easing the spine back out. Once we're up, leave the knees like this, but slide this left knee free of the right foot. So that means that the left knee stayed in internal rotation. So all we did was slide it free. So from this arrangement, yep, just like what you just did. Yep, perfect. So from this arrangement, we've got this left leg tucked back. So we're gonna aim for a quadricep stretch. So start by just bringing your hands behind you. And sometimes that's enough. You don't wanna hurt that left knee. If you want more, you could lower down maybe to an elbow or both. If the knee starts to lift up, that's kind of that indication I'm right at the edge of my stretch. I shouldn't go further. Some people can safely go all the way to their back. So don't feel like you have to, but just listen to that quadricep and especially the knee. We're finding the good edge. And whatever surface area you have on the ground, just kind of scan through that and use that almost as a calming way to be more embodied in this posture. Two more cycles of breath. Keep them slow and deep. As if each breath grows our roots even thicker. After that second one, we take our time easing our way back up and out. The left leg, we unwind it, so now it's straight out in front of us. And then just use gravity to continue to slide our way forward, stretching over to that straight left leg. Make sure you're breathing into your belly. It's almost like the belly is getting a little massage. One more deep inhale. And then exhale, we'll rise. Sliding the feet back to cobbler's pose. And then we get to release back forward. Notice if there's any difference from that first one to now. Maybe there's a slight imbalance because we've now stretched the left leg quite a bit. But maybe you're noticing other things going on. Maybe more surface area releasing open. Good, so rising back up. This time we pick up the right knee and flip it over to the left. We can walk our hands to that space behind our back, or maybe we lower to elbows. Feel the spine spiraling. Just enjoy that perfect amount for the low back. Not too much, not too little, just enough that we can mentally ease our way into our roots. As we start to rise back up, this is the one where we'll grab that right leg and slide it free of the left foot, so we end up with the right foot tucked back. So from this placement, we can start to head back onto our hands, maybe onto one elbow or both, maybe all the way down. Always know if you feel like you're almost at a stretch and you need just a hair more, tailbone scooping under is a great way to involve the quad muscle quite a bit deeper. One more deep breath in. And with our exhale, again, reverse every step to get out. But don't feel like it's a rush. We take our time. Right leg extending straight out in front of us. And then just let yourself continue to release forward over right leg. Deep belly breaths. When we breathe so deep and so slow, that's one way that I like to visualize energy, just kind of massaging down into those roots. One more good inhale. And then exhale. Support yourself through the rise. We transition toward one more cobbler's pose. Maybe the deepest, the most open, the most surface area on the ground of all three. Deep belly breath in. Super relaxed exhale out. And then rising upright. We'll come with the legs underneath our body. Leaving the hips right above the knees, we'll walk our arms forward into puppy pose. So the idea here is get as much surface area on the ground as possible. So maybe the whole forearm gets to touch down. You choose if it's forehead or chin, but either way, envision that the heart has a magnet. And so it's trying its very best to just get attracted all the way down to the ground. Maybe we won't make our way there, but that's that quality of groundedness, is aiming toward that direction. One last breath here. And then we allow our hips to sink all the way back toward our feet. A nice wide knee child pose. Then taking the right arm, we thread that under the left armpit space. So there's kind of two qualities you can aim for here. One quality would be trying to rotate open underneath that armpit. So that would be trying to get the right shoulder to drop further to the earth, rocking into the temple. That would be more of a twisted quality. Or you could do the opposite, roll onto the middle of the forehead and try to get the shoulders to be square with one another, which would be more of a shoulder stretch quality. So you find exactly the right quality for your body in this moment. Good, we'll start to unwind the right arm, then thread that left shoulder under and through. Make sure you're mimicking the same energy that you took before, whether that was more of a square shoulder or more of a twisted arms, rotating open. Start to unwind the arm and give your spine 2 or 3 more breaths in the child pose. We'll walk our way back up, coming toward a seated place. We allow the right shin to try to stack on top of left shin. If this isn't working with our hips, just drop that down in front. From that point, find your fingertips on the floor, and then continue to slide your way forward. Easing some of those tight gluteal muscles. We rise up enough that the right leg can start to open out wide to the right. Once it's there, slide your way back forward. Good, returning back up. Switch it out so right leg is down. Left shin stacks or drops in front. Then we find the floor to slide forward. One more time, rising up, left leg opens, and we go forward. Good, rising up. We'll make our way all the way down onto our backs. And once we're there, stretch the arms up overhead, and we'll take our banana shape. So right ankle crosses over left ankle, and legs scoot off the left side. Up above our head, grab onto right wrist, and scoot everything off the left side, so banana to left. So much surface area on the ground right here. So be conscious of what qualities you're taking, active or passive. Both of them have great pros and cons. So it's really up to you to be that conscious decision maker. What do you do with this time, with this body, with this beautiful situation you've been given? Beginning to unwind from that side, scoot your way back onto the mat. Then left ankle goes over right, legs to the right. Hold on to left wrist and scoot the shoulders off the right. Take the same quality as before, that perfect amount of passive or active. Releasing here, we come back onto our mat. Our arms in a good comfortable spot, perhaps open to the sides. And one last way that we'll ground here for just a moment is by taking a psychic alternate nostril breathing. So rather than plugging off our physical nostril, you envision breathing in the air or exhaling the air just on one side. Maybe some of the air will actually pass through the other nostril. That's okay. But psychically, you envision that all the air is passing through that side. And this way, we're clearing out our energy centers. We're bringing ourselves into balance. And it leaves us feeling very grounded afterward. So take a normal inhale and exhale through both nostrils. Breathe in. Breathe out. And then envision breathing in left. Exhale right. Inhale right. Exhale left. Inhale left. Exhale right. Inhale right. Exhale left. And one more. Inhale left. Exhale right. Inhale right. Slow exhale left. And from here, as we continue to breathe through both nostrils in and out, We feel our body washed over with waves of relaxation. It's as if we're on a beach, we're laying on warm sand, and our muscles are completely surrendering to that beach sand. It's as if we could kind of melt our way into the earth, almost becoming one with it, becoming buried in it, being warmed and nurtured and held by it. So all we have to do is let our breath continue to flow in and out for the next few minutes. Begin to deepen inhales And exhale. Stop. Introducing little movements back to the body. Fingers and toes. Ankles and wrists. Stretching out like we're waking up first thing in the morning. Eventually taking a beautiful fetal position off to one side. Enjoying 2 or 3 more good deep breaths. Until sooner or later you feel ready to rise. Don't feel any rush. As we're up, we join our hands together in front of the heart. And even from this place where we're sitting right now, we feel all the surface area that's in contact with the earth. We thank the earth for the energy it's given us today, for some of our almost like static electricity that it's absorbed, so that we can feel much more grounded, nurtured, and safe. So from this beautiful, grounded state of being to lead us on, let's allow ourselves to wrap up the time we got to share together today with the sound of Om. Deep inhale now. May we be filled with light, and happiness, and peace. Namaste.